Hi, this is director David Derringer.
Stage manager Katie Ruwe.
Keith Cassidy playing Robert Shaw.
Brady Dunn playing Richard Dreyfuss.
Ted Weil as Roy Scheider.
At Falcon Theatre, and you're listening to
Scandal Water,
where the tea is hot and the conversation lively.
Your hosts, Candy
And Ashley.
will discuss a peculiar story somehow related to the entertainment industry. This podcast might not change the world, but it just might satisfy your thirst for an intriguing tale.
Oh, it's that time of day. Tune in and hear what the ladies say. It's time to bend your ear when the silver screen appears. Stories about the stage and screen and everything in between. So come on and join the fun. The curtain opens in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, Candy.
Hello, Ashley.
Boy, it sounds different right now, doesn't it?
Though, kind of loud, kind of windy. Wonder why that is.
Kind of like we're in a car, headed somewhere, maybe on a field trip. Do you want to tell the folks where we're going?
We are headed to Newport, Kentucky to see the Falcon Theatre production of The Shark is Broken.
I am so excited about this.
So am I.
We have wanted to see this show since we did, in season 1, our episode on Jaws, and we talked about The Shark is Broken, which is a show that Ian Shaw, Robert Shaw's son, wrote with Joseph Nixon. Is that right? Am I getting that right? They wrote this. It was in London, got rave reviews. It came for a very short time to Broadway. We were not able to go.
Surprise.
Surprise, surprise. We were not able to go to that, and then it left Broadway, and we thought, well, that's it. We're never going to see this. We're never going to see this.
Right.
Lo and behold, one of my Facebook friends, David Derringer, posted, oh, by the way, come see our little show we're doing called The Shark is Broken. And I thought, what? Community theaters? No. He's a regional theater.
Yes.
So they have gotten the rights to The Shark is Broken. I messaged him. We worked it out. He invited us to come to their final dress, which was tonight, meet the cast, have an interview. I'm beside myself. I am sitting here beside myself.
We cannot wait. We're going to get to the theater, and our understanding is we have an opportunity to speak to David and perhaps Katie, the stage manager, before the production starts. And then after we see the show, we get to speak to the actors.
So that's the way it's going to run. We're going to finish our drive. The next thing you're going to hear is hopefully our interview with David, maybe Katie, and then you will hear our interview with the actors, and we'll be back on our way home tonight, very late, but very happy, we hope, and we'll tell you what we thought about the show.
Hi, my name is David Derringer, and I am the director of The Shark is Broken.
David, we are so excited to be here at the Falcon Theatre. This is your final show for your season, and it is listed on your website as a regional premiere production. This is a show that just came off Broadway. Why specifically did you want to do this show?
We do love Jaws amongst the cast and amongst myself. I'm a teacher as my day job, so I teach theater and cinema studies, and one of the films I watch every single year is Jaws. There was a personal attachment in a way to the film, so when the opportunity came to direct the play, I jumped on board.
So did they ask you to direct, or did you say, I want to direct this if you decide to do this show?
The first play I directed here was Vincent last year, which is a one-man play about Vincent van Gogh, and that was a play
I love that.
Oh, it was amazing. It was incredible. In fact, the gentleman who designed our lights for this play was our Vincent van Gogh. But it was from that production that I was then asked to be part of the play reading committee, and then asked if I would be interested in what show I would be interested in directing this season. And to me, The Shark is Broken was the best one on the list.
Well, we absolutely love the backstory and the fact that Ian Shaw was involved in writing and creating this, and of course acting in it as well. So we have to ask, have you or has anyone in your cast or crew had any contact with these playwrights or actors?
Our actor who plays Quint in the show has met Richard Dreyfuss and has his son, I believe, or son-in-law has a poster of Jaws signed by Richard Dreyfuss.
That's cool.
Part of what makes it so special and what kind of adds some authenticity to this play is knowing that, Ian Shaw, Robert Shaw's son, wrote the play. And so, even though he was only 23, I think, at the time that his father passed away. There's still that sense of, oh, he was around. I'm sure his brother, someone in his family talked about and told him stories, and he interviewed other actors and directors and writers who were involved in the production that gives. And you hear these stories. There's a million documentaries. This is the 50th anniversary of the film. So there's enough information out there that you're like, oh, yeah, I've heard that before. Oh, that's an interesting insight that I haven't heard before.
So tell us a little bit about the set and how it impacts the play. We saw clips of the one from Broadway, and they had projection where they had the water behind it. Were you able to do this, or how is yours different?
So that was one of the hardest parts about this show. Probably the one thing that I stressed the most about, because it's such an iconic movie.
Yeah.
And the Orca is such an iconic boat. Might be the most famous boat, other than maybe something in Poseidon Adventures or something. Probably the most famous boat, or the Black Pearl. But that's a ship.
Or Gilligan's.
We could, yeah, I guess. Okay, I detract that statement.
It's number one on the list of famous boats. How about that?
There we go. But because the scene is, I say, the Indianapolis speech scene, as well as the last 40 minutes of the movie take place on this boat, so we have to get as close to the movie as we can and make it as authentic as we can. So I had to go to like 3 different Joannes as they're closing down to get as much red leather as I could find to create the bench seat, and then also finding time period appropriate fishing gear and making the set feel like a boat.
So you designed the set? You did the set?
Me, Ted, who is the artistic director, my wife Anna, and then Clint, who's another member of the Falcon crew. Oh, and then Chad as well. There's several people who had a hand in it, let's put it that way. But I was definitely here a long time last Saturday putting final touches and lots of staples and paint and all that fun stuff.
I have a question about your rehearsal process. How long was this rehearsal process? Like, what does a rehearsal look like for you all? What do you do?
We started rehearsals a month ago yesterday.
I thought it had been pretty fast.
It's pretty quick, and my rehearsals are no more than 3 hours a day.
How many days a week?
Only really about 4 days a week on average. I mean, this week was the longest because we're leading up to the opening of the show.
But with a month, I mean, that's what you should expect.
Yeah, that's what you should expect. It's also a one act. I mean, I just came off directing Harry Potter and the Cursed Child at the high school. It's a 42 scene play with moving staircases,
so this is nothing.
Fire, levitation. This is a walk in the park
Yeah.
compared to that. So, and it also helps working with some seasoned professional actors who come in day one already off
ready
book
to go.
and ready to go and making strong choices, who love the characters that they're playing and are able to honor those characters.
Did they get the script before you started rehearsal, or did they first rehearsal, you hand them the books, and then they had to get off book?
They all got the script before we started rehearsal. So we had auditions in December, and then pretty much within that week when we cast the show. Here's a PDF.
So they've had that
we'll give
time.
you a physical one on the first rehearsal. So
I bet that helps a lot.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. You said the set design was one of the most challenging things. What was another challenge from directing this play?
Probably just honoring the characters, because these are real life people. I mean, Dreyfuss is the only character that you're going to witness that is still living.
Right.
But there's enough information and history about Shaw, about Dreyfuss, about Scheider, and the physical characteristics of these characters that you want to honor that. So when it comes to casting, it was like, I need to find someone that at least somewhat looks like this character and can pull off these famous lines.
Right.
I need to get a bigger boat. The Indianapolis speech is a huge part of this production. So having an actor who can fully embody Shaw, fully embody Dreyfuss, fully embody Scheider is very, very important. So,
Did you have any particular strategies that you used to try to direct them toward that, or was that something the actors brought to it themselves?
I would say it was more the actors brought to themselves. I mean, that was the number one thing I looked for in the audition room, was who, when they walk in the room, is most believably this character. Because, again, we have a short rehearsal period. How best
What shortcuts can I take to get them there?
Correct. Yeah.
I saw that Richard Dreyfuss didn't have as warm a reaction to the play as some other people have, and he seemed to believe that he was portrayed as the fool, somewhat of the comic relief. What are your thoughts about that?
I think there's truth in that, but I also think I don't know Dreyfuss personally, but, he was a kid when he made this movie. He was the youngest person on the boat by 20 years, 30 years, and he's trying to become a star. And so he's very much in his head about his acting choices. He's doing the right thing. And I think all of that is true. And actually that's what I kind of love about him, because I see I recognize my 20-year-old self in that actor and in this character. And I think there's something to be ashamed of, and to me, it's a bit of a shame that Dreyfuss would be like, I hate how this portrays me. But honestly, the way it ends, I think, is very positive and actually puts him in a good light. But you got to give yourself grace, I think, and not judge who you were when you were 20, 25.
So the actors in The Shark is Broken spend a great deal of time trying to determine what Jaws is about. What do you think the film Jaws is about? And then what is this play about?
Well, the movie is about a shark.
Just ask Shaw.
I mean, it's the very first blockbuster. It's about the power of being able to transport an audience somewhere else and take them on an adventure. And there's value in that as well, not just, moving someone emotionally and spiritually. There's value in having a movie that just takes you on a ride and makes you want to meet these people and live with these people. And 2 hours later, you're like, well, that was so much fun. That was fantastic. I want to go watch it again. I want to own it on VHS or DVD or stream
Or Blu-ray.
Or Blu-ray. Or the list eventually goes on. I want to, be able to beam it with my eyes one day.
I want to live in it. I want to 3D live in it.
And that's what's great about Spielberg. I mean, all of his movies, they stand the test of time because they're so, there's the music, the cinematography. He's a brilliant filmmaker, but it's, at the end of the day, he wants to make really good movies that people want to go to the movie theater to see. And that's what he cares about. And he's done it every single time.
I agree.
What do I think the play is about? I mean, it's about these three guys, Robert Shaw, Richard Dreyfuss, and Roy Scheider, and the conflicts that they had on set together, as well as the friendships that were made. They don't really hide anything in the play, other than a couple bottles of booze, but eventually those are unhidden as well. I mean, we're kind of taking off the veneer of who these people really are behind the mask, behind the camera. And it holds a glass up to nature and allows you to spend, some time with these people and not just as actors.
The characters in the play ask themselves what they take away from the filming experience that makes it worth their sacrifice. So to broaden that question, what is it about theater that makes it worth the investment and sacrifice, in your opinion? Because I can tell that you are an actor. Even if I didn't already know you're an actor, just interviewing you, how expressive you are, I can tell you're an actor. So what makes it worth it?
What I love about theater is it is live. It's a living experience. The show that you are going to see tonight will be different than the show that's seen tomorrow. I mean, obviously, we do our best to try and make each show the exact same, but there's something's going to be unique. The audience is going to bring a different energy, a different reaction, a different laugh, a different joke that's going to influence, even just subconsciously, the way the rest of the play goes. And there's something amazing about that. I was in a production of Julius Caesar several years ago. That was an outdoor theater, and this is just a further why live theater has some crazy power. We had just murdered Caesar.
As you do.
As you do. Sorry, spoiler alert. And we're yelling freedom, liberty, justice and we're all there on stage, and we're looking up at the night sky, and shooting stars start going by.
Oh, chills.
And it was just, I was like that. I mean, actually just shooting stars in Jaws, but you couldn't have that you couldn't have planned that.
Right.
So it was just the beauty of live theater.
It is.
My name is Katie Ruwe, and I am the stage manager for The Shark is Broken, and I'm pretty much the resident stage manager here at Falcon Theatre.
So when you say you're a resident stage manager, does that mean it's only you running all of these shows?
It's not only me. There are a few others who come in and out, but for the past couple of years, it has been me most of the time. It's not official, but I like to say that I am. If you keep speaking it, it'll happen, so...
One thing I did notice is that there's a lot of dudes out there, and you're the only lady on the ship. How's that process been?
It just means I have to speak up a lot louder. It's not about being nice. It's about being firm and making sure that my voice is heard when it needs to be. But that's also part of being a stage manager, too, is you can't be the only voice in the room, but it's making sure that you corral the other voices.
I'm assuming probably in every show there's a part that's a little trickier or more stressful for the stage manager. What is it for this show?
The hardest part in this show is maybe about a minute long, and it is just so many cues back to back to back to back. It's a very short, interlude, and it's just when Robert Shaw is writing the script and rewriting and changing. And it's just this passage of time moment, but lights come up and then they go down, and we're in a different time of day, and there's a new scene out the window, but there's sound underneath, and then there's not. And we just keep moving, and the whole scene is maybe only a minute, but it is a constant watching, waiting, click, click, go, wait, click, click, go.
Are you doing the cues or are you calling them?
I am doing the cues. So I'm doing everything. I am calling to myself.
So you are not just stage managing, you are lights and sound.
Yes, that is correct. I'm the lights and sound operator, not the designer, but actually Ted Weil, who is playing Roy Scheider, is also the sound designer for this show.
I was going to ask, do you have advice for anyone out there who thinks that they might want to be a stage manager?
A lot of it is learning when to speak up and not being afraid to, or at least that was the biggest challenge that I had to overcome. Standing up when you have to. Say, hey, this isn't safe. Let's not do this. Can we try a different way? Or taking breaks, because that's safe for the mental well-being of the actors also.
Especially with these long rehearsals.
Absolutely. Making sure that we have good breaks. Everyone gets time to go to the bathroom, get a snack, drink some water. That's another really important part. And that's not going to happen if you're too scared to stand up and say something.
So since you've worked on so many productions, is there something about The Shark is Broken that stands out or is different from some of the other plays that you've stage managed for?
This is the first production that I've worked on that has so many projections that are actively moving to create the scene. If you look out the window of the orca and you watch the water is moving, the horizon is shifting a bit. It is an active part of the show, and this isn't something that I have encountered so far in any of my shows here, or at least anything that is as active as this. There's been a few still shots here and there, but nothing as animated as this is.
Have you seen Jaws?
Oh, of course I have. I had to rewatch it, actually, when we started rehearsals because I wanted to be right back in it again.
Do you have a favorite part of it or a favorite line, favorite scene, any of that?
This is going to be the silliest answer, but my favorite part is the small shots of real sharks that they filmed and put in there. I also work at the aquarium, so I do love to see real sharks. And the fact that they hired people, I watched the credits, they hired people specifically to get shots of real sharks, and that was really exciting for me.
How did that benefit you? How did that enhance your experience working on this play?
I was able to pick up a lot more of the references, understand things a lot more, and it really drives home just how much they were waiting and just how often the shark was broken.
Why should audiences come see this production of The Shark is Broken?
This is a really unique look at the behind the scenes of the filming, and it does give a glimpse at what filming a movie is really like. It's not glamorous. It is a lot of sitting around and waiting because you don't know what's going to happen. Sometimes there's a boat in the shot, you have to wait for it to go by. Sometimes the weather doesn't cooperate. It really does give a real life picture of what filming a movie is like.
Hi, I'm Keith Cassidy, and I play Robert Shaw.
Very well, may I add.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It has to be a challenge, I would think, playing a real person and a person who is an actor at that. So how did you prepare for this role?
My favorite thing that I used to prepare was Dick Cavett interviews. There's a lot of clips on YouTube of him being interviewed by Dick Cavett. And, you know, because Quint is so guttural, and you know, you watch Robert Shaw, and when he's on a talk show, he's he got a very musical voice. He uses the whole range, the whole pitch. So I was very impressed with that. I also reread the book Jaws. I found a book called That Lovely Shark Movie, which went through every scene and outlined and analyzed every scene. I found a documentary on Robert Shaw's time in Ireland when he was living in Ireland, including his death. You know, he died there as well, had a heart attack in the middle of nowhere.
Do you remember how old he was when he died?
He was 51, so he did not make it.
He did not make it. That's what I was wondering during the play.
Yeah, he died just a few years after this movie. So he finally got that big movie star status and didn't really live long enough to enjoy it.
I just want to compliment you on your performance because he is so iconic in this and he has such a specific character. I even noticed the set of your jaw when you're playing Robert versus Quint, that just the way you spoke, it was so magnificently done.
Thank you so much. The thing that scared me the most was the Indianapolis speech.
Oh, yeah.
Because I came into it thinking, oh, this is going to be the easiest. I'm a pretty good impressionist. And then as I started doing it, I realized that I was losing the emotional truth. He was this brilliant actor who created this wonder, and I couldn't just get into, oh, here's where he does the hat, here's where he does. I wanted those things, I wanted the mannerisms in there, but I needed to create the same emotional truth that he did. It couldn't just be an impression. And so that was very hard to get the impression right and act it and not just be doing in the external way.
How many times did you watch that scene in the movie?
Oh, I couldn't even tell you.
Yeah.
We rewatched the movie a couple times, my wife and I, and then I watched that scene on YouTube 1,000 times. Yeah. And I mentioned the Dick Cavett interviews, but there's also interviews with him in Quint, where he's a little more subdued than he is on the talk shows. You know, and so I try to put a little bit of that into it as well.
Following up on what you just said, when you said you had to balance the physicality with finding the emotional truth, did you have any particular strategies you used to get yourself there?
Yeah. So I started thinking of my own friends. You know, I started thinking what would happen if my own friends were being killed in front of me. I'm not going to say who. But I don't know what his strategy was, but that was me. I said I wanted to, when I'm talking about Herbie Robinson, I really wanted to make that real and make that visceral.
This is just something I was reflecting. I was watching it, because I've only seen this one time, so forgive me if this is incorrect. But as I was watching Robert Shaw talk about his father, I was thinking that Ian Shaw has written this about his father. Do you think that Ian is actually saying what he wanted to say to his dad in this portion of the play?
Yes, I've actually seen a lot of interviews with Ian talking about this.
Really?
And he's a little cagey sometimes when you ask him about it, because he doesn't want to, I don't think he wants to dwell in the sentimentality of it. But he said, I love my dad. He said, when we did this, because people said, well, what do you think your father would do if he saw it? He said he never would have seen it. If he were alive, and I wish he were alive, we would not have done this.
Yeah.
He said, when we made this decision, I love my father, but we had to do a warts and all presentation. We had to show him exactly as he was.
I felt like this was a love letter to his father.
I think so too. Yeah, I think so too. I think it's a love letter to all three of them.
It is.
In one scene, you all, as these characters, are talking about what is the meaning of the film. So from your perspective, what is the meaning of the film? And then what is this play truly about?
I think Roy Scheider nails it. I think that it's really about government not caring about the people. And so when that happens, the people have to take care of it themselves. The play, I really think it's about art. I think that it's about the love of art, creating art. We have three wonderful artists on stage, and all three of them have completely different approaches, different backgrounds, different experiences. One of the reasons Shaw is so antagonistic toward Dreyfuss is because he sees that new way of acting, that sort of, the modern actor studio, as a threat to his classically British Shakespearean trained. Overall, the play is celebrating process.
What does this play mean to you? What has being in this play meant to you?
I've wanted to do this play before I even read it. I just love the premise. I love the idea of playing Robert Shaw. I saw a lot of interviews about it, had not read it. They didn't really release the script to be bought or read until they released the rights to do the play. Right. So that's when I bought the script. As soon as they released the rights, I bought the script and read it, and that just made me want to do it even more. So I've been pining to do this play for the last couple years. Yeah. It's a dream come true. It's a bucket list for me.
So we heard from David that the rehearsal process was about a month long, but you just named a lot of things you did to research. How long was your process?
I started before preparing for the auditions. They had several monologues. I think there were 3 monologues for Shaw. David said prepare 2 of them because one was him British, one was him Quint, and one was doing the Shakespeare. And I think David specifically said you don't have to memorize them, but I memorized all 3. It was something I really needed. I wanted to go in as prepared as I possibly could.
Well, it certainly paid off.
Yes,
thank you.
Yes, great performance.
Thank you so much.
Anything else you would like to share about the role, about the play,
Why
about
people
working?
should see it?
Yeah.
I believe this play has so much to offer. If you like comedy, you're going to love it. If you like acting, you're going to love it. If you love the artistic process, you're going to love it. Most of all, if you love the movie Jaws, you're going to love this play.
My name is Brady Dunn, and I play Richard Dreyfuss.
Quite well. You do quite well.
Yes, great job. Without overstepping, I would guess that you don't have a long history with the movie Jaws. Is that correct?
I've seen it a couple times. I saw it when I was a teenager. I was a big film buff. Spielberg's films. Jurassic Park came out the year of my birth, and I'm dating myself and everyone else who's listening right now. Spielberg was always a favorite director of mine. Jaws was obviously one of his, if not his, most well-known work to, I would say, a lot of people. And I watched it, and it didn't scare me. I think a lot of people, I probably watched it in the 2000s, and I think a lot of people past 1995 probably weren't scared by it. But it was a fascinating work of film, and that's why I liked it. And I looked a lot into the, making of the film. I knew about the shark. I knew about the problems. I knew about the score. All those little tidbits that all the Jaws fanatics know. I knew those as a teenager, and I really liked it. So I have more experience than you would think. But no, I did not see the premiere in the theaters, nor did I see the first home video release of it. So.
But that's what drew you to it, your fascination, your enjoyment of the film.
Yeah, I actually have worked with Keith many times, and Keith has been talking about this particular play for a very long time. Another director friend of ours has talked about doing this play for a very long time, and somebody just randomly suggested, hey, you'd make a great Richard Dreyfuss, and I was like, I don't know how I feel about that, but sure. And I saw that David and the Falcon were doing it, and I said, you know what, on a whim, I'm going to go audition. Who knows if I don't get it? Yay, I have more free time. If I do get it, yay, I got it. I happened to get it, and I thank David for the opportunity to bring this character to life on stage.
It's kind of a good way to look at your career. If I get it, I get yay, and if I don't get it, more free time. That's fantastic.
But it has to be a challenge. We asked Keith the same thing. You're playing this actor who actually happens to be alive right now and has some very distinctive characteristics. So how was that in terms of your preparation and in terms of the challenge?
So you hit on something very interesting that's happening right now. There's a lot of musicals and plays and things that are coming out that are recreations or reimaginings of things that are relatively recent. Two examples are this and Back to the Future, the musical. Yeah. And both of these plays have characters that people know, and they're like, that's the character. And so when you're coming at a play like Back to the Future, you have to be Doc Brown and Marty McFly. You can't be
Michael J. Fox.
And
Christopher Lloyd.
Christopher Lloyd. Who do you be in that? Do you be Christopher Lloyd, or do you be your own version of Doc Brown? With this particular play, we aren't playing the characters. We're playing the actors behind those characters. Right. So that adds a whole new dimension, because a lot of people are going to see this play. They're going to expect Hooper and Quint and Brody. And instead, they're getting Dreyfuss and Shaw and Scheider. And they are very different kinds of people, and you have to kind of marry those two together. And I think our production has done a very good job of finding the moments where people recognize, ooh, that's from the movie, and oh, that's from the actor. And I think a lot of people who come see this play who may not be so familiar with their other works, but only know them from here, might come away with a better appreciation of what it takes to actually be an actor and do these kinds of things, because what we present up here and the process, I mean, it really is long and grueling. I've been in films where you just sit around for 6 hours to film 30 seconds apiece, and then you're like, okay, another 6 hours, please wait here. And that gets taxing, and to imagine being on a boat in the middle of the ocean for hours on end with just these two guys, I would have gone stir crazy. I would have been like, I need to get off of here. You need to take me back to shore right now. And so that helped me with my preparation of this character, because I didn't want to come in and try to do just an imitation of Richard Dreyfuss. I wanted to get the mannerisms. I wanted to get the voice, the vocal style, and the costumes. That was a big part of this. My hair is naturally straight.
Really?
Yes.
Did you get a perm?
I did get a perm. For the first time in my 30 years of existence on this planet, I now have curly hair just for this show. So that's fun. But that does help when you look in the mirror and you see something totally different from what you're used to seeing, at least for me, and Keith was very similar as well, is that moment when you put on the costume and you are that character. That's the moment where it really locks in. And you are no longer just yourself. You're now embodying this other person. Embody somebody who's alive is an interesting challenge, because Richard Dreyfuss does have a... opinion? That's a good word for it. There are many opinions about him as well. Like Keith, I watched a lot of interviews and various different clips of behind the scenes, and there's the infamous What About Bob, and him and Bill Murray did not get along, and then a lot of other people on other movies did not get along. And what I gleaned from it, and this might be telling on myself a little bit, but he may have been a little bit cocky, but then that also probably resulted in him being bullied a little bit by some of the larger, bigger kind of people. And that experience is this might be shocking, but very close to my own experience in the world, being a theater kid and doing high school theater all through high school and then into college and now into my adult life. It was not always easy just to be like the weird, loud theater person. So I do see a little bit of myself in this character. So that really does help me, at least, get into that headspace and be able to act and sometimes live out what may have happened if I was born in a different time.
Yeah. You know, one thing I notice in your portrayal is the frenetic energy. Mm-hmm. That is hard to maintain. It's a 90-minute play, but there's only one time where you're still, and that's the end, to me. And that, I mean, this is a compliment. I was just so impressed with how well you were able to keep up that energy. Those push-ups, man, I counted. It was 16 tonight. That was amazing.
Well, you can tell that to my director, David, who has run me through the gamut. During our rehearsal process, we went from an 11 to a 1 to a 5 to a 10 to a 2. One of the things myself that I have issue with is I do tend to go high. I go 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
Your speaker goes to 11.
Yes. And one of the things that I really appreciate in a director like David is the ability to say, okay, I love what you're doing with the 11. Now I need you to bring it down to a 2, or I need you to bring it down to a 5. And to be able to play with those levels and be able to say, yes, do this here, do that there. I know a lot of directors just kind of go, wow, that's energy. That's great. Keep it up. And just kind of move on. Richard Dreyfuss is a very manic person in his day-to-day life, and it's shown in a lot of different aspects. So to be that manic, anxiety-driven, panic attack-prone kind of actor on stage, but also portray it in a way that's not cheesy or hokey or like, oh, he's just doing that for laughs is a delicate really balance.
Are there any interesting behind-the-scenes stories that you would want to share with us?
I guess she feels like you would tell us.
She's already got my number. We just kind of clicked. We had all of our partners at the read-through, and my fiance was there, and she was actually sitting between me and Keith as we were reading the show, and she was like, this is one of the best shows I've ever seen, and because she got to see the fights between Dreyfuss and Shaw and be in the middle of them as we were reading through the play. So I hope that energy that we were able to find in that very first day of meeting a month and a day ago really carried into what we are able to produce here on stage.
We would like to ask you the same question we've asked your fellow actors. In one scene, you talk about what you think Jaws is about as these actors portraying these roles, and we would like to know what you personally think the film is about, as well as what you think The Shark is Broken is really about.
One of the things I have really learned about why Jaws was a successful film is, I think, something that people don't talk about. People didn't know what the shark looked like. Yeah. The shark was the draw because you didn't see it, and then you got to see it for 5 minutes or so of the film, and people really wanted to see it. And I think it's why the other Jaws films don't work, because people already knew how they did the shark, and they were like, it's the shark. I think that when you look at Jaws as a whole, it does have that political message Roy talks about in terms of government not caring for the people, and it can have that, deeper subconscious message that Dreyfuss talks about, but I think it's just a really good piece of film. It's fun. It's something that a lot of movies today, I think, miss out. It's like you get to sit back, you get to relax, and just have a good time at the movies. You don't have to think too hard. You get to see some fun stuff. You get to see some great acting, and ultimately at the end, you get to pay off with the big shark that you've been waiting to see the whole time, and you get to leave the theater, and you may not go into the ocean for a month or two, but after that, it's like... Or years, if you got that fear and that phobia. But I think that Spielberg made a good film. Shaw says it's about a shark, and sometimes it's just that simple. Now with this play, of course written by the son of the man who played Quint, who was an alcoholic, and as you all discussed, it was the love letter to his father. This play is for theater people. This play is for people who appreciate the performing arts in a way that I would say the general populace may not quite fully grasp. It's a fantastic play for everyone, and everyone can find something within it to enjoy. But if you have grown up or done any type of performing art, you will see this play as a reflection of the trials, the tribulations, the pain and suffering, as well as the joy and beauty that comes from being able to put on a production for people to enjoy. And I think that to me is one of the best things that we get to do, is we get to come in here and turn the lights down and give people a show that they enjoy and have them hopefully turn their minds on and off at the same time and walk out of here thinking something they didn't. And when they clap, it feels great. I'm not going to lie. Who doesn't want to be a big star?
My name's Ted Weil, and I play Roy Scheider.
Very well. You do very, very well.
Excellent job. Excellent job. We have learned that before we talk about your great job in this role, that you actually fulfill other roles in this theater. You are the producing artistic director, is that correct?
And the founder.
And the founder, and you are responsible for bringing the play to the theater.
That's right, I am. I've been running this company for a long time, and I am the producing artistic director here. So, yeah, I wear a lot of hats.
Can you tell us, how did this come about?
This play, in a way, got lucky to get this play. I saw some publicity come out about it, and I started chasing the play just like they chased the shark. And trying to get it, we really thought some of the bigger theaters in town would grab it. And, you know, if the big equity theaters do, we can't get it, at least not right away. And became a real challenge to try to get this play. We announced our season last year with this last slot as a TBA. We didn't know we were going to be able to do it. I knew I wanted it so badly. So I didn't want to put anything else in the slot that we'd have to bump. So we held off, and finally over the summer we were able to get the rights.
It was meant to be yours.
It was. It really was.
Did you know that you wanted to play this role, or were you saying, I just want to put it on the stage?
No, I just wanted to put it on the stage. I hadn't even thought about playing this role, as a matter of fact, until close to at least the time we started auditions here at Falcon. I don't get on stage very often because I do a lot of other things here at the theater. So I really only get on stage once every few years. I did a show 2 seasons ago and wasn't really planning on doing anything. I was really looking at auditioning for an earlier show this season and thinking about that kind of seriously because it would have been an interesting role to take on. And then David mentioned, you should read for Scheider, as almost a joke, but not really. And thought about it, and in talking with David and talking with my wife, everybody was like, no, you really, really should read for Scheider. I'm like, this would be really fun to do, so yeah, why not? I'll do that, and it worked out.
What is it about this particular play or your history with the film that made this so appealing to you?
I mean, it's a great movie. It's a popcorn film. It is such a great summer blockbuster, and it was truly the beginning of the world of summer blockbusters. Yeah. I'm old enough to remember when this came out and was a hit, and I can remember as a kid going to the beach and people talking about it and being terrified to go into the water because of this movie. You know, it really changed a lot of things and had a huge effect on people. So, that was part of it. But then when I read it, I think it's such a good script. There's so much laughter in it. There's so much fun. But it's also such a great picture of what the acting profession is and the filmmaking and theater professions are all about. And I think that brings together those two worlds, entertainment and art, in a really interesting way.
I really feel like people who do theater and love movies specifically get the inside jokes and get some of the other stuff that they're talking about. My face hurt at the end of this from smiling. But I want to talk about your performance specifically because it is such an understated character. You've got these two crazy people on either end that you are just trying to balance, and it could get lost, but you bring such a quietness and such a strength to the character. Then to have the scene where you do the sunbathing, it just shows his little wild side.
Yeah, it shows everything.
It shows us everything. But how did you feel about both of those things? How did you feel about portraying this character? Did you feel the strength of him, or do you feel like he's not as well developed? What's your feelings on him? And then how did it feel to have to do that other scene?
Well, there's no question that Scheider is the straight man in the play, but I think he was in real life too.
Yeah.
I saw several interviews with him and interviews with other cast members and just things written about him, particularly after he passed away. And almost everybody, and even Dreyfuss specifically, describes him as just this dedicated journeyman actor. He showed up, he did his job, he never argued with anybody, he was just that guy. And it seems like everybody had that opinion of Roy Scheider. And so, I think that the way he's written in the play is very much who he was, and between these two guys, he was the peacemaker. He was the one who was like, guys, let's just, eventually we're all going to move on, but right now we're here and we're making this film and we're getting paid to do it, so let's do our jobs. And it does make him in some ways challenging to play because he doesn't have a lot of laugh lines. He doesn't have a lot of things to really ground him in, or to latch on to as a character. What makes Scheider Scheider? And it is the quietness. It's the lack of anything really big and bold that makes him that. So trying to keep some energy in that role was the thing that I worked hard on, trying to keep him interesting and fun, while at the same time, not trying to top these guys or do anything that would draw focus, because that wasn't him, and that's not how he's written in the play either.
I just felt like he was the quiet, calm center for both of them, because they were both. Yeah, he was a mediator, but they were both friends with him, sincerely friends, and they took comfort from him. And I love the way that portrayed him, and I just loved his character.
Yeah,
So,
I like it too, and I think that it was fun for me as an actor to find reasons to like both of them. As we would go through rehearsals, I'd listen to the lines and just be up there and let little things hit me. And if it hit me interestingly in a rehearsal, I tried to grab onto it and explore it and say, okay, is this a moment? Is this a moment? Because it took a while for me to find a reason for Scheider's last line, which is, I think we'll be in pretty good hands.
Yeah.
Because Dreyfuss is so irritating and such a nebbish and so many things. But there are a few little lines in the play that I really tried to grab onto as Scheider of, this kid's got a head on his shoulders, and if he settles down, he's going to be something else. And, I think history proved that was true.
It did.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about that other scene?
So there's that other scene. It got a few years on Roy Scheider. So the idea of coming out here and, taking off 99% of your clothes in front of an audience who knows you really well because they see me at the theater all the time is a somewhat intimidating thing. But honestly, it's just so much fun to do that scene. And it's so, he's so iconically tan that I think that, people will forget it's me hopefully they will have forgotten it's me long before that scene. But it's just fun to do. It's ridiculous and a little overblown, but probably very true. He really did have rheumatic fever when he was a kid, and he really did love the outdoors and the fresh air, and was a sun worshiper because of that. So those lines in the play are pretty accurate. So, he loves that. So I've tried to love that as well, and just not think about, how much skin is out there, and hey, we'll yep, exactly. We'll see how the audience responds.
I think they're gonna love it, especially because they know you. They're gonna be like, this is fantastic.
They will never see me in the same way again.
That's true.
David mentioned that you did something really neat with the music. And so I'm going to ask you to share what you did with that, and then if there are any other special little touches like that audiences should look for.
So, the music, the pre-show music, particularly in the play, they mention, particularly Shaw, mentions a lot of big movies. So, in the pre-show, I tried to use the theme songs for those movies that we would be hearing. Needed a little extra music to kind of fill it out, so I also included other collaborations between Steven Spielberg and John Williams. This was one of their earliest ones. Yeah. So, we did that with the music, and I think it's really fun, and it also sets the mood, right? You're listening to movie music, and most of it will be familiar to people. There are a few things people may or may not know depending on their ages, but I think it'll be really fun to set the mood.
Well, we have to ask you the same question we've asked your counterparts, trying to determine what Jaws is about. So what do you think Jaws is about? And then what is this play about?
Shaw's right. Jaws is about a shark. But it is about other things. The movie is a summer blockbuster. It's a popcorn movie that was made to entertain, but it is also based on a book. And Benchley wrote that book for bigger reasons. It was also kind of a summer blockbuster of a book. It's not a fantastic, brilliant book, but it's a good book, and it has certainly spawned a series of movies that have gotten into popular culture and have changed. Who doesn't know about Jaws? There's more there, right? And it is, in some ways, about all the things I think that the characters talk about. It is, in some ways, about primal fear. It is, some ways, about responsibility and society and how we treat those things. There was a huge change in public perception about sharks after this movie came out, and Spielberg spent a lot of time and effort trying to change that back and say, even though the shark's the bad guy in this movie, stop killing sharks. It had even unintended consequences. And so I think it's about things that are almost bigger than it is as a movie and as a story. And the play is very much about the world of filmmaking and acting. It is certainly an homage to Shaw's father, to Robert Shaw, and to those guys who made that movie. All of them, not just those three guys, but the entire cast and crew who made that movie and ended up being a big part of his father's life. In some ways, his father was a huge star before this, and Jaws put him on the map in ways that none of the other stuff he did ever could. I think that he was doing some honor to what it did for his dad. But I think that the play, that's one of the things I loved about it, was the way it married that summer blockbuster with real deep comments about acting as a profession, about filmmaking as a world, as a lifestyle. And that's what makes it fascinating, and that's really one of the reasons I most wanted to do the play.
What is it about theater that makes it worth the time investment and the sacrifice?
Absolutely nothing. No, that's not true. I've been doing theater pretty much my whole life. I grew up in theater, and I can't imagine not doing it. Until you've done it, it's really hard to understand how immersive it is and how much it takes over your life when you're working on a play. Whether you're in it or, working behind the scenes, it's a very, very collaborative art, and it's very overwhelmingly involving. It really captures you, and it's hard to let go of that emotion. I've found throughout my entire life that my best friends are always the people who I just worked on a show with. And that also makes that world very transient. So, those few friends will stick with you for your whole life, like everybody, but you have friends who you would invite to your wedding because you did one show with, but 6 months later, you're like, oh yeah, that person who I worked on a show with. It's an interesting world. It's hard not to get involved in that. That said, I had a theater professor way back when I was in school who said, and I think this is very true, if there's anything else you can do in life, do that, because this is hard. It is very, very hard. It will cost you friends. It will cost you relationships. It will certainly cost you money that you could have made and won't, and many other things throughout your life. And I think that that's true to an extent. But he said, if this is the only thing that really captures your heart, if this is where you need to be, then you're in the right room. And I believe that's true, and I still believe that's true to this day.
Because you've been in the right room for how many years now?
Well, in this physical room for 25, with Falcon Theatre for 33 years.
Wow. What an achievement. That's amazing. You all have shared so many different reasons why people should come see the show. Reason after reason that should draw people to want to see it. So please tell us, how can listeners get tickets and come see the show?
The best way to get tickets is to visit our website, and that is falcontheatre.net. You can spell theater either way. We got both domains because we got tired of spelling it. But yeah, visit our website at falcontheatre.net, and all of the ticket information is there. There's a link to just click and buy tickets. On our box office page, there's a phone number if you're not particularly web savvy, and you can call that, but online is the easiest way.
And what are the dates for the show?
May 2nd through May 17th. We run Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturday.
No Sunday?
No Sundays. Okay. No Sundays. We don't like doing matinees any more than most people like going to matinees. Actors don't like to get up early.
All right, I think that's it from us. Thank you all so much for this. This was magnificent.
Thank you very, very much.
All right, everybody, we are back in the car. We are tired, but we are theatrically fulfilled, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. That was great. That was such a wonderful experience. Where do we begin? We always like to share a few of our thoughts after we have an experience like this. I have so many things going through my head. So what's one thing that you want to share, Ashley?
Yes, I will talk first because Candy is driving us home on the interstate, and she is such a brave driver. It is 11:41 at night. So my thoughts, first of all, is what a kind and well-spoken and just accommodating. They were so sweet. They kept thanking us for coming, and we're like, are you kidding me? Thank you for allowing us to do this. So first of all, they were just delightful and wonderful.
And so talented.
Yeah, that was my next thing.
Talented.
The talent that was on that stage tonight was out of this world. They transported me to that movie set. I felt like I was watching the real people during that time. It was just really that good.
It really was. And they did such a wonderful job conveying the characters, conveying the messages of the play, bringing the humor into it. I mean, there was a lot to this because it was 90 straight minutes of just very in the moment action and dialogue, and you just were with them the whole time. So good.
One thing that I noticed, and we spoke about this in the interview, is it really hit me how much the themes of the play were not only what was happening on stage, but also I felt like was Ian speaking to his own father. There was a lot about fathers in this play and people's relationships, specifically with their fathers. I just felt like Ian was writing this play as a love letter for his own father that he probably does not remember, right? We talked about that before. He was 3 when his dad passed away. So this was just a way to get to know him and also to actually embody the same role. And he looks so much like him.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Well, that's about Ian Shaw and Robert. But Keith, talk about big shoes to fill. This is the first regional production that has been performed in our area. They got the rights to it. And to have to walk into, you've got Robert Shaw, Ian Shaw, and then Keith is going to have to fill those shoes. And he did it.
He did it brilliantly. I mean, he really did embody Robert Shaw. Just a brilliant performance. And I loved hearing him talk about how he was able to get into that character. He did such a good job of articulating the research he did, as well as how he was able to take himself there emotionally. And I just loved hearing him share that.
We gave credit to the other actors while we were there, but just to say it again, I thought Ted as Roy Scheider was such a quiet character, but he was so powerful and so strong in his quietness. He was the center for that group. He kept everyone together. He was who everyone bounced ideas off of, who they all felt comfortable with, and he was the thing that they both rotated around. These crazy men, Richard Dreyfuss and Robert Shaw, were just rotating around Roy, and Roy was keeping everyone together. And Ted really brought that quiet, except for that one scene where, just as a warning, if you go see this, he sunbathes in his little bathing suit. That is what happens. And he talked about how really vulnerable that is to have to go out and put on a bathing suit in front of people that you've known for 30 years because you run this theater. So I thought that was remarkable bravery.
It was a fun scene. And that brings us, I think, to talk about Brady Dunn as Richard Dreyfuss. He had to bring so much energy to that, and all three of them, to be able to really try to embody these people who are not characters, they are actual actors. It takes so much skill, and they all did such a fantastic job with it.
I really liked how they went from, again, no intermission. This is 90 minutes. You have the first 2 scenes were roughly 30 minutes apiece, because I was checking my watch to go, are we going to do this in 3 30-minute chunks, or how are they going to break this up? So the first 2 are 30 minutes, and then the third 30 minutes is broken down into multiple scenes. But the amount of emotions that they go through, they have to, this runs the gamut. This shows you professional actors at the peak of their craft. They are going from arguing at the top of the scene to quietness to playing a game on stage, doing push-ups. It was a physical workout, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually for some of them. I can't say enough good. It was everything I was hoping it would be.
I agree. And I don't know if we've said this, but here we are. The premise sounds so simple. These 3 actors are bored waiting to try to film this movie, but the arcs that you see just in that short amount of time, like the way their relationships develop, I mean, there are just so many different pieces to it that you can take away from it. It's just so enjoyable.
So before we wrap up, I think it would be remiss if we did not mention the other 2 major members of this crew, Katie as the stage manager and David's direction. Boy, Katie had a lot to take care of.
She absolutely did. I did not realize she was not only serving as stage manager, but also managing the lights and sounds. And there was a lot to do. I mean, there was a lot of technicality to this show.
And I agree with that. And I really enjoyed David's direction of this because he kept the pace going, he kept it interesting, and he kept us all engaged.
He did, and I thought it was also nice to hear how the actors kept calling out his influence and his guidance as
Yeah.
they were talking. I think it has to be fulfilling as a director to see the impact you've made reflected back to you like that.
Yeah.
That would have to feel good.
I think the last thing I'll talk about, because this episode has gone on a long piece anyway, is one thing we did talk about off mic with the actors there is it is also so fascinating because they make the joke, who's even going to be talking about this film in 50 years, which of course this is the 50th anniversary of Jaws, and clearly we are all still talking about it. But seeing this is, I kind of got a little choked up watching these men, even though they're fighting. By the end, when they're hugging each other and it's the last take, and they're talking about their time together, and you think this is never going to happen again. Even though you drove each other crazy for the most part, they don't realize what they're creating together and this iconic relationship, and it's goodbye and look what you all have created. Look at what we're still talking about, and seeing that form and seeing the behind the scenes of it as a person who acts, as a person who enjoys theater, who enjoys film, who enjoys this film, it had so many levels of enjoyment for me. And ending the way that they ended it, it was so beautiful.
It was a great choice. It was beautiful.
So I think with all of that, now that we have waxed poetic about this fantastic play, I think that brings us to the cheers. Who would you like to cheers, Candy?
Oh, that's so hard. How about the amazing cast and crew of the regional premiere production of The Shark is Broken at the Falcon Theatre in Newport, Kentucky? We wish you the most successful run. We know it's going to be amazing. Cheers to you guys.
Cheers.
If you love what we do, please rate and review our show or become a supporter through Buy Me a Coffee or Patreon. Whether a single gift or recurring monthly donation, your support is what allows us to keep the tea brewing.
Subscribe on your favorite podcast app or the Scandal Water Podcast YouTube channel, and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Show notes are available at our website, scandalwaterpodcast.com, where you can also access the merch store and more.
This episode was executive produced by Candy Thomas, that's me, and Ashley Raymer Brown.
That's me.
It was researched and written by Candy Thomas and edited by Ashley Raymer Brown.
A special thank you to Josh Martin, who wrote, composed, and performed the Scandal Water theme and other music, Matt C. Adams, who created the artwork, and Joshua Reeve, who designed our website and provides ongoing technical support.
As a reminder, this podcast is purely for entertainment purposes. The thoughts and opinions of the host during each episode of Scandal Water are their own and do not reflect the opinions of any future guests, advertisers, or clearly professional psychologists. Thanks for listening.